Calls it a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires. Swing and a drive. Deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by AJ Gonzalez. AJ, the Dodgers win. Always more fun to do these post-game shows after a Dodgers victory. A nice, comfortable, from the first batter of the game on, the Dodgers held the lead. They end up winning this one 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a fun game when you can look back and think of a couple moments where you're like, man, we should have had a couple more runs, and they still scored 9.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I mean, I mentioned it. The Dodgers going up against a Royals pitcher tonight, Alec Marsh, who was making his major league debut. We're going to get into Mookie Betts' big game, but the first batter that Alec Marsh faces in his major league career is a home run to Mookie Betts. Dodgers take a 1-0 lead. It kind of goes from there. So lots of storylines to get to. Bobby Miller pitching, trying to bounce back from back-to-back poor outings. Mixed results, I would say. We're going to get into Daniel Hudson's return from injury and his debut in the 2023 season. So lots to get to. But let's start with the Dodgers offense and kind of just break down how this one played out. As I mentioned, Mookie Betts homers to start things off in the top of the first inning, a 422-foot bomb to left field. The Dodgers go up 1-0. Fast forward 2 innings. Guess what? Mookie Betts homering to left field again. This one off the foul pole. Dodgers go up 2-0. Kansas City does get one back in the bottom of the third. Bobby Witt Jr., a ground out to first, scores a run, but Bobby Miller able to escape a little bit of damage there. Dodgers tack on in the fourth. Jason Heyward, RBI double. That guy again, Mookie Betts, RBI single in the fourth, makes it 4-1. Royals get one back in the bottom of the fourth, but then the Dodgers continue to tack on. JD Martinez hits a 414-foot sacrifice fly that was nearly a 3-run home run. It's just a sacrifice fly. Dodgers go up 5-2. Miller gives one back in the bottom of the sixth, and then the Dodgers pour on from there. Jason Heyward, another RBI single in the seventh, and then in the eighth, Mookie Betts, RBI double, Freddie Freeman, RBI double, David Peralta, sacrifice fly to left field. So let's talk about Mookie Betts, AJ, because that feels like the storyline here. I believe he's 7 for his last 8 with 3 home runs. Tonight, 6 plate appearances, all 6 times Mookie Betts reaches base, 4 for 4, 2 walks, a double, and of course, the 2 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, there are only so many superlatives in the English language that you can use to describe what Mookie Betts does on nights like tonight and day in and day out, really.
Yeah.
But just fun to watch, man.
Yeah, I mean, gets it going right from the beginning, and there's got to be no better feeling for a team than when a guy like Mookie Betts goes up there and from literally the third pitch of the game, you've got a 1-0 lead. I imagine for a guy like Bobby Miller, AJ, don't you think a young pitcher, he's struggled his last 2 times out, it's got to feel good taking the mound, already having a lead, knowing, hey, Mookie's got me on the board. We've got a little bit of a cushion to play with right from the get-go.
Yeah, and I imagine for some pitchers more than others, you try to pitch with the velvet glove.
Yeah.
But when you have the lead, you don't have to as much. You know, you can rear back a little more, probably pitch more relaxed, and it probably leads to better results.
Yeah, looking up and down the Dodgers lineup, of course, it wasn't just Mookie Betts, although his line was the most impressive. 11 hits for the Dodgers, 9 walks. So 20 times the Dodgers reached base tonight. That doesn't even include a hit by pitch to Will Smith, as well as JD Martinez, who reached on an error. So lots of base runners. Max Muncy, 0 for 3, did walk twice. JD Martinez, kind of the only guy who disappointed, 0 for 4 with no walks. But again, AJ, even as I say that, he had a 415-foot sacrifice fly to dead center that's out in 3/4 of the park. So hard to get too mad at him. Although if you're watching the playback, you would know I had a big 10-leg same game parlay on the Dodgers. We went 9 for 10. The 10th was JD Martinez not getting a hit, and he flew out 415 feet. I feel like DraftKings owes me a little bit of a refund on that one.
For sure. And like, how mad can you really get when you hit a ball that hard? I think you said the exit velocity during the playback on that was like over 102 miles an hour. Yeah. You can't get too mad at that. Outman maybe not having the best game, although we had a couple good at bats, but not the results.
Yeah.
Miggy Rojas, a couple feet short of hitting his first dinger of the season.
Did get a double, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jason Heyward, the other offensive star tonight, 3 for 4, and we were talking about it as we were watching. I mean, a couple really hard hit balls. At one point, the Dodgers had like 8 of the top 10 hardest hit baseballs. That is where it ended up. Jason Heyward had 2 of those. Mookie Betts had 3 of those. So Heyward, another guy that, he's down there in, 7th in the lineup tonight. At some point, do they have to move this guy up? I mean, he's got an 850 OPS. He's hitting 264, a double tonight as well. Jason Heyward, I at some point, you're expecting the magic to wear out. You're expecting the James Outman effect where he has the massive OPS for the first month of the season, and then it kind of fades away. Heyward just keeps hitting the crap out of baseballs, and tonight was no different.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to ask, and I don't mean to take a dig, but when is Muncy gonna maybe trade places with him? And I mean that to help Max. You're putting him in the cleanup spot when he's still trying to find his rhythm through these injuries. Maybe he needs a little less pressure on him. Yeah. And with Hay apparently not having any pressure whatsoever, give him a shot up there. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the lineup, they moved Muncy into the 4 spot ahead of JD Martinez. We know how they like to sort of mix up lefties, righties, that kind of thing. I wonder, do you think that's just having JD Martinez protecting him in the lineup a little bit? Do you think that Dave's rationale? Is it just strictly wanting to get a lefty in there in between Will Smith and JD Martinez? I'm just thinking, to your point, maybe it's Jason Heyward that needs to be in that 4 spot if we want to go righty lefty that bad, because having Muncy coming up right after those top 3 guys of Betts, Freeman, and Smith, it costing the Dodgers a couple times. I think he left, 5 or 6 different guys on base. It felt like the team leaves 11. I don't know what Muncy ended up with specifically, but it just felt like missed opportunities a lot for Max Muncy in that 4 spot.
Yeah, the walks are nice. He has one of the most patient eyes in the league, if not the most patient eye in the league. But you are the cleanup hitter for a reason. That's what they need from him. But I think Max will come back, the version of Max that we've known the last few years. But to take the pressure off of him, why not? Yeah. Switch him and Hay. It's just an ego boost for Hay, and for Max, you tell him this isn't a punishment. We just we're trying to take the pressure off you.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting dynamics there at work. Let's go over to the pitching side, AJ. Again, the plan for tonight, we'll talk through pitching. We'll do player of the game, and then we'll get to questions and answers. So we appreciate those joining us live on YouTube, as well as those listening after the fact as part of our podcast. You can find us at DodgerHeads on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. But let's talk pitching. Bobby Miller, as we know, had struggled his last 2 times out. A ton of hits, a ton of walks, a ton of earned runs. He comes out against the Royals, one of the worst offensive teams in baseball. 5 2/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. 6 base runners in 5 2/3, pretty good. 3 earned runs. Honestly, it felt about right. It felt somewhat deserved. 3 earned runs. It didn't feel like an unfair 3. I mean, there were some stolen bases, but a lot of that was on him not being able to hold the runner on. So what did you make of Bobby Miller maybe not being the most impressive guy we've ever seen against a team that we kind of would have liked to see him be impressive against?
Yeah, I think it speaks to his growing pains because, we all talked about how we thought maybe he was called up a little early out of pure necessity, out of roster necessity. And then he kind of blew us away with how good he was looking. But, especially young guys, they come back to earth. But like you said, this is a team in baseball who's at the bottom of basically every offensive metric category other than stolen bases. Yeah. So, yeah, it kind of would have been nice to get maybe the full 6 with 1 or 2 earned runs at most instead of the 3. But he was missing some locations here and there. He had some trouble with his control. And, he got, I think it was a fair outing for him as far as the way he was throwing.
Yeah, he ends up throwing 2/3 strikes, but you look at the pitch breakdown. He threw 27 fastballs. That was the most of any pitch that he threw. He got 11 swings, just 1 swing and miss on that fastball. So you're looking at the actual velocity. He threw the max he threw was 100.3 miles an hour. It averaged over 99 miles an hour. So, I mean, obviously the velocity is not a problem, but just his inability to get swing and miss on that pitch has been problematic. I mean, even the slider, that's the second most popular pitch tonight. He threw that 22 times, 12 swings, just 3 whiffs. So to throw those 2 pitches 49 times and to just get 4 whiffs on them is problematic. The changeup did look good. 2 whiffs on 6 swings on that one. Did get a whiff on sinker and the curveball, but it just feels like he's trying to find it. It doesn't feel like the command, maybe a better word, is totally dialed in for Miller. And, this wasn't a bad performance by any stretch, but just 4 strikeouts. It just felt like he had a lot of guys up 0-2, and you were just like, all right, Bobby, can we throw a slider? Can we land a changeup? Can we blow a fastball by someone? He just wasn't able to do it. The other thing I wanted to mention, AJ, we talked a bit about this on the live watch along. What did you make of Bobby Miller's reaction as he was coming off the field? Obviously disappointed he wasn't able to finish the 6th, left a couple runners on, had just given up another run there. Caleb Ferguson comes in, bails him out, shuts things down. But the way he reacts, he's so emotional. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being emotional, but there's something about when I'm watching him do it, it feels like it's almost too much. It's like, okay, you can care and you could be frustrated, but it almost feels like at times he lets the emotions get the best of him. Do you agree? Am I overanalyzing that situation? I'm open to the idea. I'm overanalyzing it, but what do you make of kind of how he handles sort of those meltdown type moments?
I don't necessarily disagree with you, actually, but I will say it doesn't bother me that much. It bothers me a little bit, but because of his age, the kid is still young.
Yeah.
Composure and working on your anger is something, especially with men, it takes time. And from what I understand, that's kind of been his reputation as he's progressed throughout the minors.
Yeah.
During his development is his temper and his emotional composure.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is a little bit of concern there, but I chalk it up in the same way I chalk up his lack of swing and miss, maybe the pitch sequencing. That's all going to come with time, patience, and learning. But it is definitely, I think you're right, it's definitely something to keep an eye on and maybe to kind of look, I know that just saying the name Dave Roberts will get people in the comments with their opinions, and that's perfectly valid, I understand. But as far as a leader of men and coaching personalities, Dave's elite. I don't think you can argue on that. So I think between him and Mark Pryor, it's something to work on.
Yeah.
But I think they can help him get a handle of it.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I mean, that was one of the other things that I mentioned. Caleb Ferguson is who comes in for Bobby Miller, gets the final out of the 6th inning, comes back out for the 7th. A little bit of bad luck, I would say, for Caleb Ferguson. Felt like, just some weak contact. There was the ball where it's hit in between first base and the pitcher's mound. He grabs it, goes to tag, misses the tag. His momentum carries in the guy's safe. Then it's a little bloop single. He's got runners on first and second with 2 outs. Dave Roberts comes to pull Caleb Ferguson. Caleb Ferguson, before Dave Roberts even gets out of the dugout, is got the glove on his face, and he's basically screaming in the direction of Dave Roberts is what it looked like. Dave Roberts comes to get the ball. Ferguson's not necessarily handing him the ball. It's kind of held down here so that he can get a few more words in with the glove over the face. I just thought that was an interesting moment. To your point, Dave handled it the right way. He didn't go at him. He just took it and said, he's probably thinking Caleb will cool down. We'll deal with this at a different time. But it was just an interesting moment. I don't think it reflects anything. I'm not panicked about it. I just thought it was a really interesting moment there with Caleb Ferguson and his reaction sort of directly and overtly to Dave Roberts.
Yeah. And I think Dave was smart enough to recognize that Fergie did have some bad luck with that with those hits. That play, that the in-between was pretty comical, and I'm sure it was frustrating.
And it was Ferguson's fault, to be fair. So he can't really be mad at anybody but himself on that one.
And that you're dead right. Like, I think that may play into it. Like he probably frustrated himself as much as him being frustrated by Dave coming out. But Dave's a smart guy and knows that, like, those players got to vent every now and again. Like, if you yell at your coach one time when you're grown adults, it doesn't mean that there's a problem. We get, like, emotional, and to be fair to Caleb, there was some bad luck there. So, I don't read too much into it, but like you said, it was an interesting moment to note. Maybe see what happens with Caleb next time he's out there.
I just realized that play they gave a hit. That was scored a hit, not an error on Caleb Ferguson.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. But listen to this. I mean, I'm just looking at the box score here, and this is pretty remarkable. The Dodgers bullpen, Caleb Ferguson came in. He threw 11 pitches. All 11 were strikes. Yency Almonte came in. He threw 2 pitches. Both were strikes. Daniel Hudson came in, threw 14 pitches. 11 were strikes. And Justin Brule came in, through 16 pitches. 14 of them were for strikes. So you've got, 13, 27, 43 pitches thrown by the Dodgers bullpen. And if this is right, 38 of the 43 were all thrown for strikes by the Dodgers bullpen. That's a pretty ridiculous stat if that's correct. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any reason not to believe that. But 38 out of 43 pitches for strikes. We talk about, hey, bullpen, come in, throw strikes when you've got a lead. Dodgers bullpen does that for you.
You took the words out of my mouth. You're facing a team that, and no disrespect to the Royals, they know they're in a tough phase of their rebuilding right now. You're facing a team that's not good offensively. You're up multiple runs. Just pipe them in, man, and they did that. They were great.
Yeah, so good stuff. Well, let's get to the guy that I think is if it's not Mookie Betts, the number 2 storyline tonight is Daniel Hudson. Dodgers probably their second best relief pitcher if things go according to plan. Returns tonight, makes his debut in 2023. 1 inning, does allow a hit, gets 2 strikeouts, but man, the stuff for Daniel Hudson was pretty impressive, all things considered. 8 swings, 3 whiffs, a clean 1-2-3 inning. Again, gives up a hit, but it felt, fortunate, I guess you could say. I believe it was an infield hit that Max Muncy couldn't just. It was a good play by Max Muncy, just speed on the base pass for Kansas City, but hard not to be encouraged by what Daniel Hudson did tonight.
Yeah, like even when his fastball, like regardless whether it looks like it's 45, or whether it looks like it's 95 or 99, it's got so much life on it. His delivery is so solid. He just looks like he's ready to develop right back into his role, because he just came back as his first appearance, and I would have been fine with there being some cobwebs to shake off. Maybe he gave up a few hits, but he didn't. He bared down. I think it bears greatly for the future.
Yeah. I'm just seeing real quick. Somebody mentioned this in the comments. I'm seeing it on Twitter. Ohtani just hit a 500-foot home run, 493 feet officially, 115 off the bat. So a highlight to go find as soon as we are done here. But yeah, to your point, I mean, look, the thing with Hudson is, it's not 100-mile-an-hour velocity like you're going to see from some guys, but it was 95 tonight, and yet it just kept gutting on guys. Average 95.2. Topped out at just a tad under 96, but it was an effective pitch, we'll say. He threw 8 of them. He got 3 called strikes and 1 whiff. So 2 foul balls as well. So, I mean, we're talking about 6 of the 8 that he threw, basically end up going for strikes, one way or another. So impressive stuff there from Daniel Hudson. Yency Almonte gotten out, mixed in, and then Justin Brule comes in and works a scoreless 9th. So the Dodgers end up winning this one 9-3 again. 11 hits, 9 walks for the offense. And then the bullpen comes in. Bobby Miller, 5 2/3, 3 earned run, but the bullpen comes in 3 1/3, 4 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts. So, I mean, again, AJ, you and I haven't talked specifically about this, but yet another night when the bullpen is just stacking an impressive performance, basically going back almost 2 weeks now. You can point to basically one game, the game a couple nights ago when it was Nick Robertson and Victor Gonzalez getting roughed up. I mean, that's basically the only game that they've had bad experiences with the bullpen in a couple of weeks. And so to quote our guy, Blake, I don't know if they're back yet, but it sure seems like the bullpen is back.
You'd think it was about time. There's talent in that bullpen. There's talent in the arms. Guys who performed well last year had struggled a lot throughout the beginning of the season. I mean, you look at guys like Yency Almonte, who has not looked good this year. He looked lights out for a lot of last season. He had a filthy slider, some really filthy stuff.
Yeah.
Guys like Ferguson, who's been solid for a long time. You get Daniel Hudson back. Obviously, Phillips is our guy who's been just elite since we've gotten him. There's talent here. They were underperforming, I think, throughout the first part of the season. Not I think. We all know they were underperforming.
They were.
But I think the regression to the mean, which we usually use in a negative sense, it also means good things sometimes.
Yeah, never for the Dodgers because we're usually on the positive side of things. But in this case, so to TQT's point, is it the Spiegel curse on the pen again? I famously said Yency Almonte was back because he had not allowed a hit in like 6 straight appearances, and then he proceeded to give up 3 earned runs in his next time out. So that was a personal thing, but I think for the bullpen, I've been positive about the bullpen for a couple of weeks now, and I'm on here a lot, so that's 4 or 5 times. So we'll see. I've remained optimistic about the bullpen. I just think there's too much talent out there to fail. That's not quite a too big to fail, but maybe too talented to fail for the Dodgers out there. All right, let's get to player of the game. We'd like to do a little podium situation here, which is something we've decided to do this year because a lot of nights like tonight, pretty dang obvious who the player of the game is going to be. I'll just say it out loud. It's Mookie Betts. He comes to the plate 6 times. He reaches all 6 times. He has 4 hits. He has 11 total bases, including 2 home runs and a double. He did absolutely everything that he needed to do. Made a couple nice plays at second base as well, just to mix it in. 3 runs, 4 RBIs. The slugging percentage, on base percent, I mean, it's 270, 370, 553. So 923 OPS. I got no more words. It's like you said at the beginning. I don't know what else we could say about Mookie Betts. He's one of the best players in baseball. And tonight, AJ, he continued to play like it with another leadoff home run. What is that? Is that 9 leadoff home runs that he's got this season? Is that where we're at?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe
Which is
so.
tied for the franchise record. So tied Jock Peterson, who I believe had the former record. But I mean, is this what? 3 leadoff home runs in 4 games or something like that? Is that what he's at? Because didn't he go, and it would have been 4 straight if not for a home run being robbed in the second game in Colorado. Am I remembering this correctly?
It sounds right, but then again, I don't want to quote you on that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, so Mookie's the player of the game. Give me your runner-up. We've got some options. I can run through some of them. Jason Heyward, 3 hits and some stuff there. You could go some of the guys in the bullpen that maybe got you out of trouble. And there's other guys. I mean, Jason Heyward had 3 hits and a walk. You got Freddie Freeman had a hit and 2 walks. Max Muncy had a pair of walks. So there's a bunch of guys who reach base a bunch of times. Who do you got in that number 2 spot, AJ?
Yeah, I think I got to give it to Jay Hay. It might be low-hanging fruit to pick that, but, I mean, he's been great. I love watching him smoke balls into the gap that are, like, on the outside corner. He's just so strong, and when he's hitting the ball well, he's smoking the ball. And just the chance that he got to come back and play in LA, and he's been good for us. I think he's an obvious second pick. Even though I think you're right, there are some guys in the back end of the bullpen who deserve some flowers as well.
Yeah, I'll zag a little bit. I think there's 3 guys that are in the top 3. I'll go Daniel Hudson as the runner-up. Yeah. Just nice to see him make his major league debut. And again, what are we going to get? This is a guy who's up there in age, who's battled some pretty weird, like knee, ankle type injuries that, it's not an elbow, which is good. But in some ways, like the knee scares me a little bit more just because of how much weight and force is put onto a knee that's planting. And they showed the replay of him getting hurt last year. It's just horrific to watch. And so, but for him to come out and look as good as he did, again, 95 with life, placing it where he wanted to, getting some swing and miss on breaking ball. So, I'll go Hudson second, and then I think Heyward would be the obvious choice for third there. I'm guessing in your order, if you've got Heyward second, is Hudson in that third spot for you?
Yeah, it would be Hudson. The comeback story is so much fun, and he looks solid. Justin Bruihl looked good, but when you're mopping up a 9-3 lead, it's kind of hard to want to give you that spot.
Yeah, 4 outs for Justin Bruihl because he gets the strikeout, drop third strike, and has to get one more out there. So there you go, top 3. I can't imagine anybody's going to argue with those 3, but that's what we're going with tonight. That's what AJ and I have. Slightly different order, but that's what we'll go with. Let's get to some questions here as we head towards the end. I saw one early. This one was from Matty Man. This was something we talked about on the live watch along. We try and do those Tuesdays and Fridays, although because of the holiday and some travel the next couple of weeks, personally for us on our end, I'm not sure when the next watch along will be. We might be off for a week or 2, so just stay tuned. But he asked, Heyward has got to be the comeback player of the year. Yes, I kind of hinted at this. I said I didn't even know if they did one. Matthew Moreno, our editor, informed me. Yes, they do have one. I would imagine Jason Heyward is in the running for that. Somebody mentioned Tatis, which I think was a joke. But I don't know. I mean, I don't probably know enough about the narratives around the league, but I mean, for a guy like Jason Heyward, who basically they said, we're going to pay you all your money, we just want you to go away, for him to come back and be OPSing, 850 is what he's at right now. It's hard to argue with the results that Jason Heyward is getting.
He may get dinged if he doesn't have enough games logged just because they've been using him in splits, but it's a solid vote. I mean, he's hitting the cover off the ball. He's been great in the field, but as he always kind of has been. The Tatis comment is hilarious because if you call it comeback player of the year, what is he coming back from? I forgot. Anyway, yeah. Off the top
Cody
of my head,
Bellinger. Cody
Hayward's a good
Bellinger.
one.
I see somebody saying, online looking it up. Bellinger's another option. He was, as we know, not very good and has been better for the Cubs this season. So that's an option.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an ops plus of 109, so he's doing better. I'm not going to say he's hitting the cover off the ball, but we would have taken that from him last year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's get to some more questions here. Michael asks, is the dam going to break with trades now that Chapman has been dealt? Are you ready for Snell and Hader to be traded? So if you missed it, Aroldis Chapman, one of the relievers that was said to be available, was traded by the Kansas City Royals. Of course, Chapman famously almost became a Dodger a while back. Some horrific allegations against him came out. That trade did not end up going through. So I was not surprised to see the Dodgers not in the mix for Aroldis Chapman. But AJ, to the point of this question, do you think that we might see some movement on trades, or do you think this was just sort of a false alarm and we're going to have to wait a couple more weeks until things really start to heat up?
I think it's a flash in the pan. I mean, teams like the Royals, who are obvious sellers at the deadline, it makes sense. You might see a couple of those go down, but I don't think like the big trade chips like that are going to come up soon. I'm not qualifying Chapman as a big trade chip. His prime is, obviously long since passed.
Yeah.
And I don't see the Dodgers being involved in those early trades. They always wait till the very last minute. So it would surprise me if those dominoes start falling now, but you might see a few smaller ones. Sure.
Yeah. I was trying to look at kind of who they got returned, because I know there was some talk about like the price wasn't necessarily terrible. They got a guy who's a former first round pick, and a guy who's been playing in the Dominican Summer League. So not the craziest price there. So which I guess is good news. The second piece of this question, AJ, I find it hard to believe that the Padres are going to be sellers. Like with all the wild card spots that are available, I know where they are in the standings right now. I know that it's ugly. For them in the next 3 to 4 weeks to come to the conclusion that they're packing it in and that's going to be a wrap, I just struggle. That said, they've got some guys, I believe. I can't remember. Is Juan Soto a free agent at the end of this year, or does he have one more year, or did he extend? I can't even remember. Anyways, Snell and Hader are the two that they mentioned here. Do you think the Padres are going to be sellers? I guess we'll leave it there.
There's no way on God's green earth that AJ Preller is going to be a seller. I didn't mean to rhyme that, but it works at the deadline. And if you want to think logically about it, yeah, they're struggling. It's embarrassing for them how poorly they're playing.
Yeah.
But the talent that they have on their roster, and most part in the pitching roster, they could go on a run on win 15 out of their next 20, and it wouldn't surprise anyone with the talent they have. So I would be very surprised if they're sellers, unless the rumors about how broken the clubhouse is are worse than we realize. But I would be surprised.
Snell and Hader, Michael got this right, are the two guys that are free agents. Soto has one more year after this, so he's a free agent in 2025. But yeah, I would struggle with that one. Michael asks, what's the latest on Clayton Kershaw? Matt and I did a live show yesterday, I believe, breaking down the latest news on Clayton Kershaw's injury. Basically said that his shoulder was barking at him. He got a shot, an injection of some sort to deal with the inflammation in there. And they're going to wait and see. I've said all along, please just put the guy on the injured list. He misses one start, and then they go into the All-Star break, and he can come back as soon as that's done. I don't see any real downside to just taking this slow, AJ. With that said, tomorrow, Julio Urias expected to be activated. The Dodgers would have to make a corresponding move to make room on the roster. Could it be Clayton Kershaw to the injured list? Could it be Justin Brule, who I believe has now pitched back-to-back days and thrown a lot of pitches? Both options, but what would you do? I mean, what we know is that he has shoulder inflammation. There's no MRI that's been taken. The doctors have checked him out. It's just sort of normal inflammation, soreness, etc. Would you just stick him on the IL and tell him to take it off? Would you tell him, hey, we're actually going to give you a month off? Like, forget the 2 weeks. We're going to give you a month. We can't be messing. How would you handle the Kershaw news?
I don't know that I'd give him the full month off. Trying to rest arms like that doesn't always work. They come back usually like worse than before sometimes, or not in shape enough to kind of make it worth your while. But I think retroactively putting him on the IL and just getting him through the All-Star break to get that extended break.
Yeah.
Like, the famous Indiana Jones line, it's not the years, it's the mileage. He's got so much mileage on his arm playing into October every year. I think it's not a big deal, and maybe it's helpful for him and his shoulder to heal. Just give him that like extra break.
Yeah.
Julio's back. We're almost at the All-Star break. I don't see a downside to it other than we might have to watch another bullpen game.
Which have been fine lately.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Grove wasn't great in the last one, but all in all, the bullpen games haven't been the worst thing in the world. This is a good one that I know you'll love. TQT asked, Karros made mention multiple times that the stolen base issue the Dodgers have is going to be really big in the playoffs. I can't help but agree. What can we do to fix this issue? We mentioned it. If you're giving up steals, if every single becomes a double in the playoffs, it's going to be a problem. The Royals stole, I believe, 3 or 4 bases against the Dodgers tonight. Will Smith, if you look at the numbers, he's like top 5 or 6 in pop time. His arm strength is top 10. So there's not an issue on the catching side. The fact that the Dodgers can't throw anyone out relies primarily on the pitchers. The Dodgers have to do something, AJ, right? Like, I mean, do you take the All-Star break and maybe pull some of these guys aside and say, hey, let's work on pickoff moves? Like, what do the Dodgers need to do? Because clearly they need to make this a priority.
Yeah, pickoff moves, slide steps. You got to use your disengagements that you have because this is a big problem. I mean, you look at the Royals team, and again, I don't mean to pick on the Royals, but offensively they struggle. They do run very well. At least 1 or 2 of those runs was precipitated by their speed, by getting into scoring position. And how many times has that happened to the Dodgers pitching staff throughout the season? Yeah. I know we talk about how Syndergaard just doesn't have it anymore. He's not been as good. But how many times did he shoot himself in the foot by just allowing runners to take second and get into scoring position? Because at a certain point, it's not even just become, you might want to keep an eye on him. No, if they walk the leadoff guy, it's like it may as well be a double. And if you have a runner on second and nobody out, it's impossible to get out of that jam half the time. They're going to have to do something. I can't imagine Mark Pryor and Andrew Friedman and company are just looking at this problem and ignoring it or brushing it under the rug. Yeah. And if they are, something's broken. Yeah.
I totally agree. Next question here. This can be a quick one. Mike M wants to know, do you think the Mets deal Scherzer and or Verlander, given this year is a train wreck? Keep in mind, Scherzer's got a 3-year contract, so not a free agent till 2025. So he's got some time to go on that contract. Verlander, a 2-year contract. So, I mean, we said the Padres we don't think are going to be sellers. Do you see any chance of the Mets being sellers?
I don't think that they're going to be sellers. And with a guy like Scherzer or Verlander, unless a team's getting an AARP discount on those arms, I don't see it happening. This is the bed that they made, and it was a gamble. And sometimes the gambles work, sometimes they don't. I think that they've made their bed, and they're going to have to sleep with it.
Yeah, those contracts are really, really bad. So not only are you taking back a player that has been disappointing, but you're also adding on a couple years for guys who are pretty old. Laura asks, what do you expect from the Dodgers at the trade deadline? Are you expecting a lot of action from the Dodgers? Do you think, I mentioned, I think starting pitching should be the priority because that sort of trickles down to fix your bullpen. But as many people have pointed out, just because you want starting pitchers doesn't mean there are going to be starting pitchers available. There's not a ton. Lucas Giolito, one of them, if not maybe the only one who's available, unless you want to go try and sign a guy like Zach Greinke and bring him back for one last ride. But what do you expect from the Dodgers? Do you think there's a blockbuster somewhere in here for Andrew Friedman and company?
I honestly would like to think so. The Dodgers have shown that they have a lot of prospect depth that they don't need to sit on.
Yeah.
Why has Bush been up at the majors so many times but not getting the quality starts that he deserved? Maybe.
Yeah.
It feels like they've been shopping him in a not so obvious way anymore. I don't know if the White Sox would drive up the price of Giolito, or I don't know how that would work for the trying to get to pry Giolito away from where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost, and we all know that the Dodgers pay an exorbitancy tax. They're going to have to give up more than Bush and a guy in AA. That they're going to have to give up guys that we are probably prospect hugging.
Yeah.
But with the way the Dodgers are kind of middling in third place. They're obviously still like well in playoff contention. This is the one year where I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Friedman finds the right deal and pulls the trigger. It's not that he's never done it before. Obviously, Scherzer and Trey Turner came to us, but it would be interesting to see what it's going to cost.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a blockbuster coming. And I've said this. It's because the Dodgers have a 40-man roster problem. And I know we've said this in the past, but they just have a bunch of guys that are on the 40-man roster. They have a bunch more guys that need to be added to it at the end of this season. They have a bunch of guys who aren't even on the 40-man roster because they're on the 60-day IL. I mean, they've got something like 15 guys on the 60-day IL. Well, all those guys need to come back onto the 40-man roster. If they don't get healthy during the season, after the season, then you've got Landon Knack and those types of players who need to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. And so I just think there's a glut of guys that are already on the 40-man roster. And I think the Dodgers at some point need to move them, or else they're just going to lose them for nothing. So can you package 3 or 4 of those guys? You mentioned Michael Busch. I mean, Gavin Stone would be an interesting name, a huge prospect coming into the season, but obviously a guy who struggled at the major league level this year. So something to watch there. Let's get to a couple more of these. We'll do rapid fire. This one's funny. I'll let you answer this one quickly. BMR asks, AJ Preller, overrated or the most overrated front office guy in the league? Which are you going with?
I'll go with just overrated. I don't think there is a measure of tipping your cap to someone who is that bold.
Yeah.
In some of the moves he's made. And look, they kicked our butts last year. You can say whatever you want. Some of those moves have not worked out, and some of them have come close to working out. The only thing with Preller is look at how many former Padres prospects are now superstars.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to go, maybe you don't jump at every first chance you get to trade and deal.
Yeah, and the flip side is he kind of got the inverse. That's how they acquired Fernando Tatis Jr. was, I believe, in a trade with the White Sox, I think.
Yep.
So sometimes he gets these big name guys and then actually ships them out. So I tend to like a lot of the moves they make in real time. Like I definitely wanted the Dodgers to go out and get Juan Soto. They didn't. Preller did. So kudos to him. A lot of them have worked out. I honestly think a lot of it has to do with their inability to find somebody who can manage down there and get that clubhouse in order, which I think is one of those maybe we don't appreciate Dave Roberts enough for. Michael wants to know, any plans for Bobby Bonilla Day tomorrow, AJ? This is the famous Bobby Bonilla gets a big check for like, I forget what it is, $1.5 million or something every year for 30 years, whatever the deal is. So any plans to celebrate?
I'll probably tweet about it and then have to fight all the comments of other people I'll probably tweet about it and then fight all the comments from Mets fans who go, this isn't the only team that has a contract on deferred money. It's the Mets. We're allowed to make fun of you. Just deal with it. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day.
Noah asks, what do you believe will happen to Miller and Sheehan if Dustin May comes back? I mean, I would say this. The Dodgers don't have 5 starting pitchers right now. Exactly. If Emmett Sheehan continues to pitch the way he's pitching, he will be in the rotation. We don't know what we're going to get from Julio Urias. As I said, he comes back tomorrow, but struggled prior. Clayton Kershaw's health currently not 100% solid. Tony Gonsolin's health not currently 100% solid. So I don't think, Noah, we need to rush into figuring out what we do if in the event that we have too many starting pitchers. I think we'd like to first get to maybe a 2 or 3 week stretch where we just have 5 healthy guys who can all pitch their turn through the order. That'll be a good problem to have, Noah. I guess I'll answer your question there. It'll be a good problem to have when they have too many pitchers to go. All right, let's see if we've got maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Here we go. Roy, last question, unless somebody wants to throw us a food question at the end. We like to close with some fun ones. But he says, is Yanni Hernandez a good fit at third? He is a switch hitter. Max Muncy's the third baseman. And I saw some people in the chat having this conversation. I know he's hitting 190 something, but if you look at weighted runs created plus, which gives you a league average of 100, and anything above 100 is above average. Max Muncy's weighted runs created plus is like 113. He's an above average hitter because he hits for power, and the on-base percentage is decent. Like I said this, JD Martinez is hitting 270. His on-base percentage is 310. Max Muncy's hitting 190. So he's hitting 80 points less than JD Martinez. His on-base percentage is higher, and he has a decent slugging percentage. So it's not pretty. It's especially not been pretty since he's come back from injury, but to answer the question, Yanni Hernandez is not a good fit at third base. If you're talking about guys who, in my opinion, should eventually be DFA'd, Yanni Hernandez would be on that list. So nice player, seemingly a nice guy, But if the Dodgers have World Series aspirations, Yanni Hernandez can't be anywhere near. Anything you would add to that?
No, I totally agree with you.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, well, that'll do it. Didn't get a food question, but that's all right. We did a couple of those on the live watch along. So we appreciate everybody joining us. Again, if you're joining us live on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe, ring the notification bell here on YouTube. Matthew Moreno and I will be here live on Sunday night. Be sure to follow me at Jeff Spiegel. We'll announce what time that is. I think we're shooting for about 7:10 p.m. We like to do that Dodger first pitch type deal. So 7:10, Matt Moreno and I will be here doing that. We'll have an MLB draft preview, I believe, with Justin Lorber coming on Monday. So that should be fun. And then content, as always, coming here. Make sure you check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest post-game quotes and that kind of thing. Good stuff up on DodgerBlue.com. AJ, Scott, Blake, a bunch of people writing and contributing there as well. That's AJ Gonzalez. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Dodgers win 9-3. So enjoy the rest of your night. And as always, go Dodgers.